Hi, I'm Jennet Ingle, the 5-Minute Reedmaker. If you're watching this on YouTube, would you go ahead and click subscribe so that you never miss a new video when I drop them, and so that other people have an easier time finding my channel and making better reads and becoming happier musicians and oboists. Today I wanted to talk about what you need in a reed. I recently had a conversation with someone who was really stuck in her reed making, couldn't seem to get her reads over the finish line to being like functional quality experiences for her. And upon further conversation, it turned out that she was constantly clipping her reeds to try to make them sound better. And this is a really common choice, and I think it's a really bad choice. Here's my thought. Even your bad reeds need to work. If you are going to show up in public as an oboist, you have to be able to enter at the right time, enter when you want to, as opposed to when the reed will allow you to. You have to be able to manage your dynamics, and you have to be able to play in tune. These are the basic requirements of a musician, right? Is to be there when it is your turn to play, to be able to obey the instructions on the page, and to be able to fit in with the musicians around you. In other words, to play in tune. And you'll notice that none of those characteristics are actually exactly about tone. No matter how gem-like and how beautiful and how liquid your sound is, if you can't control it, you are not going to get called back to the gig. That is not a successful way to go about being an oboist. So here's my own criteria, which I think are pretty standard, honestly. The first most important thing your reed has to do is it has to go when you tell it to. In other words, your reed has to have response. And going along with that, I would say, is that it has to have the amount of resistance built into it that is comfortable for you, right? I can make a reed that will tongue the moment that I touch it with my tongue, but it will also go as I articulate on it. I need to know that my air has someplace to go and isn't going to like blow up the reed. So I would put resistance, an appropriate amount of resistance, into the category with response. Everyone has a level of response, resistance, cushioning that they like in a reed. And we can work a little bit with a reed that is a little bit more resistant than our ideal, or a reed that is a little bit less resistant than our ideal. But basically, you have to know that when you put your air behind it and you start the note, you initiate the note with your tongue, that it's going to go. It has to be responsive. Second most important is it has to be in tune, which means that without doing a ton of manipulating with my mouth, I need to be able to place a note at the same basic pitch level as everybody around me. So that really goes for me to stability versus flexibility. It is not the case, as you know, of course, that you can play every single note on the needle with your tuner and have that be actually appropriate, right? It's not necessarily the case that you can play A 440 and then B relating to that and C relating to that and have that fit into every context. As you're playing in an ensemble, you have to be able to lower your major thirds, raise your minor thirds, voice notes where they appropriately sit in the harmonic structure of the piece that you're playing. It is possible in any given ensemble that all of the musicians around you are also human and imperfect, and that you might need to be able to pull your overall pitch a little bit higher to match your ensemble, or a little bit lower to match the people that you're playing with. So your reed has to have built into it enough stability that you know how an F relates to a B flat, how a G relates to a B, right? That you can basically blow from note to note and trust that your oboe is going to give you what you expect and enough flexibility that you can pull the note a little, a few cents either side of every pitch. So if the first most important thing in your reed is response, it has to work and it has to have a comfortable amount of resistance. The second most important thing in your reed is that stability and flexibility have to be balanced to a comfortable place for you, so that the whole thing basically plays in the vicinity of 440 or 441 as you need, and that you are able to comfortably play intervals in tune and comfortably move pitch around to match what's going on around you. So those things have to be in control, response and pitch. And only after that, if I have a reed that functions to those degrees, but I slightly don't love the sound, I can go in and work on that, right? I can use the corners of my tip to try to darken the sound. I can possibly steepen my rooftop a little bit to look for a little bit of a darker sound. There are things that I can do to work on tone in my reed. If it's a little loose sounding, I might clip a tiny bit. But overall, I find that if the reed works, if it functions, in terms of its response and resistance and in terms of its pitch, basically it's gonna sound fine. It's gonna sound like an oboe. And that's what we need. The tiny, tiny things that we obsess about in terms of the edginess of the sound, the looseness of the sound, the core in the sound, we really, really find that to be important as oboists. And of course we do, because it's our voice that we're hearing. But what I would suggest to you is that to most outside observers who are not inside your own skull, the oboe sounds like an oboe. And if you have an oboe reed that enables you to play the oboe, to do all of the things that you are being asked to do, to control dynamic response and pitch, it's going to sound fine. And a beautiful tone that works for you is really the icing on the cake. You can tweak that, but it is absolutely the last thing I go for in my own reed making. So I hope that this idea feels helpful to you. I hope that this enables you to let go of too intense a focus on the quality of the tone early on in your process, especially. This has been a 5-minute Reedmaker lesson. You can follow these short videos here on YouTube. You can subscribe if you wish. I hope you do. And if you need to reach me to order reeds or cane, or to ask me questions that I can answer in subsequent 5-minute Reedmaker videos, you can find me at jennetingle.com. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.